So I absolutely believe, and again, simply my hypothesis, he is innocent until proven guilty, that he will be arrested and indicted on sex trafficking charges. I have no doubt about that. And I do believe that he was most likely the kingpin of this. These girls, what that tells me, if it's out of the Southern District of New York, is this is spanning multiple states, and that he is trafficking or allegedly trafficking girls across multiple states, across the United States. This isn't just an isolated incident in one location. And so I have heard things as well about his Hamptons parties and things happening in those Hamptons parties as well. So I suspect more evidence may come out as a result of that. But these are extremely serious charges. And part of me too is frustrated by somewhat the complacency, right, of the entertainment industry as a whole in this. And I think sometimes people fly under the radar for a long time, like Epstein did as well, because people are scared. People want to still climb the ranks, and we're doing it all the while sort of sacrificing the safety of these young victims or girls that are involved in this. And that is...
Diddy undoubtedly believed he could ignore all of the charges made against him, but it turns out the FBI found far more evidence in his locations than anyone had anticipated, and they are fairly certain he will be apprehended soon.
About the timeline of how this typically works in terms of if we're seeing a raid on several properties, does that in conjunction with an arrest? Does that come before an arrest? Does that, how does it typically work?
Typically, Jesse, it's in conjunction with an arrest. But I started thinking about this a little bit more last night, and I was thinking that if he has videos or his associates have videos, and they are attempting to distribute those of young male children or female children, that means that a child is in imminent danger. And so part of me wonders if this was done to stop that, and that they will get to the arrest obviously at some point, because as you mentioned, typically these warrants are served and there's usually an indictment that goes hand in hand with that at the same time. So in my opinion, it's not unheard of, it's just a little bit unusual. We don't typically see this. Anytime we did raids at the FBI of this nature, we also had an arrest warrant for the individual as well. And so it is unusual, but I don't want to say it's unheard of. And again, I'm just speculating, but part of me wonders if this was still actively being distributed. And if it is, they need to shut that.
Why didn't Homeland Security just arrest Diddy right away if they had enough evidence to inspect his homes? It appears that Homeland was able to seize all of the videos. Diddy's involvement in illicit actions with youngsters indicates that their money did not end up in the wrong hands.
Extradition treaty with them. Right now, though, because of the public nature of this, I have a very hard time believing that a country would allow his plane to land with him on it in their country. They don't have to let him land if they don't want to. And so I think that it would be very difficult for him to be able to land in an inhospitable country simply because they don't want him. We do have extradition treaties with more countries than I think people would think. And typically they will send folks back to us as long as we take the death penalty off of the table. And I don't believe that this is a death penalty case. It's Southern District of New York. And so I believe that whether we have an extradition treaty or not with whatever country he may or may not go to.
However, now is not the time for him to wait around. He would surely attempt to take control of the nation before the arrest warrants are issued. In that case, how will the authorities be able to apprehend him?
Friday, Diddy's legal team filed a motion to dismiss some of the claims from a lawsuit filed by Joy Dickerson Neal in November, accusing the music mogul of R-ing her as a then college student in 1991. His legal team is arguing that some of the claims were brought under laws that didn't exist and against companies that were not formed at the time of the alleged incident, according to the documents obtained by US Today. US Today reached out to the Dickerson Neal's lawyer for comment. So Dickerson Neal filed her complaint in November in Manhattan Supreme Court, a day before the New York State Adult Survivors Act expiration date, and alleged that she was essayed and abused by Combs and was the victim of revenge porn. I've changed the word for those that may be misunderstanding, according to the court documents obtained by U.S. Today. Diddy's lawyer, Jonathan Davis, argues that the ASA does not permit Dickerson Neal to revive claims under statutes that did not exist, including her claims of trafficking and revenge porn. The new filing later states that the Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, and Combs Enterprises, also listed as defendants in the suit, didn't exist when the incident allegedly occurred, and no allegations of wrongdoing are pled against them, concluding that Dickerson Neal's claims against the companies fail as a matter. Combs has denied Dickerson Neal's allegations, claiming the incident was made.
Now that it seems like Diddy is just going to keep attempting to brush everything under the rug, he has a sexual assault case from Joy Dickerson Neal to deal with before he can even consider handling the whole sex trafficking thing.
Mr. Pierre and a third assailant in a lounge in the Detroit, Michigan area. While at that lounge, Mr. Pierre insisted he was best friends with Mr. Combs and even called Mr. Combs with Miss Doe. Mr. Combs convinced Miss Doe, who was half his age at the time, to accompany Mr. Pierre and a third assailant on a private jet to come to his studio in New York City. Before they left for the private jet, Mr. Pierre smoked crack cocaine in a bathroom at the lounge, in which he also sexually assaulted Miss Doe by forcing her to give him oral sex. And she's expressing that she's using the pseudonym third assailant because she does not currently know the third assailant's name. However, once that's produced during discovery, she does plan to amend the complaint and produce his name. Mr. Pierre, third assailant, and another gentleman then escorted the high schooler to a private jet, which flew them to Teterboro, New Jersey. There were SUVs awaiting the group at Teterboro, and the four of them were driven to Daddy's House Recording Studios, a studio famously owned and operated by Mr. Combs and Bad Boy. While at the studio, Mr. Combs and his associates, including Mr. Pierre, piled Miss Doe with drugs and alcohol. As the night wore on, the 17-year-old Miss Doe became more and more inebriated, eventually to the point that she could not possibly have considered to have sex with anyone, much less someone twice her age. While at the studio, Miss Doe was gang by Mr. Combs, the third assailant, and Mr. Pierre in that order. While Mr. Combs was Miss Doe, he complained that he could not get off unless she pinched his nipples as hard as she could. Mr. Combs then watched on as a third assailant, who Miss Doe has not even realized had begun to have sex with her, Miss Doe as she told him to stop. After third assailant was finished, Mr. Pierre took his turn at Miss Doe and then violently forced her to give him oral sex, during which Miss Doe was choking and struggling to breathe. When Mr. Pierre finished, he left Miss Doe in the bathroom alone. Miss Doe fell into the fetal position and lay on the floor. Her vagina was in pain. Finally, after a period of time, Miss Doe regained her bearings. However, she could barely stand up following the gang and had to be helped to walk out of the building and back into a car. She was taken back to an airport and flown back to Michigan. However, she had very limited recollection of her transport home and only remembers being in a car sometime early in the morning.
However, Dickerson's legal team is taking a back seat to see that Diddy is brought to justice because everything he did to this young girl was really upsetting. Sadly, Joy's lawsuit isn't Diddy's only legal concern right now. Jane Doe has filed a stunning complaint accusing Diddy and his crew of beating Joy in addition to spocking her drink.
What happens here is that the federal government started a case with him. Apparently the search warrant that had his houses in Miami and LA was pre-planned already. They knew they were going to do that. So they have a much bigger case. Right now with the guns, they're going to check them, they're going to trace them, see if they were used in any crimes. They're going to go over anything about the cooperators that are cooperating with them. They're going to be talking to a lot of people about certain criminal acts that he might have committed, and then go from there.
And what about the videos?
Well, they're going to sift through those videos. They're going to look at them and then see if there's any criminality on those videos, and then they'll go from there.
So what do you think? I mean, it just seems like the house of cards might fall for Diddy right now.
It's not looking that great. Right now, I know that he has higher powered attorneys, and with all these allegations that are coming out against him and against other people, a lot of people are starting to be very nervous.
Diddy wasted no time at all refuting every assertion in the lawsuit and taking to social media to express his annoyance at people dragging his name through the mud as though he needs assistance. Now that the claims of sex trafficking are genuine, Diddy isn't the only one falling victim. An ex-MD detective named Derek Parker claimed that it had been accomplished and that he would be in serious trouble.
It's that you became pregnant. Not once, but twice, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When was the first time you became pregnant with Diddy's child?
The first time was October 2014.
Okay. So this was like, what, a year after?
No, not a year, but because I met him in February and then I got pregnant in October.
Oh, so the same year.
The same year.
Okay.
And he was like, you're gonna get an abortion, right? And then I was like, I don't know yet. And then he offered me $50,000 to get rid of it, but I turned it down because I just loved him, and I was like trying to prove that I wasn't the girl that
Was
wanted
with
him for money.
Okay.
I just care about him. In 3.5 years, he was like mean to me.
So when you say mean, describe it.
He was abusive. He was like always belittling me and always like he was like mentally, emotionally, and physically abusing me.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the first time we've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
There was an incident, of course, with Cassie, where reporters are saying that the police were called because they got into an altercation. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Tell me some of the things that he would say to you.
He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one and she's the good one.
And he was with both of you guys at the same time?
Yeah. Every single day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why would he call you? Not that he had a reason, but like, in his mind, what do you think prompted him to call you a hoe?
I think he did it because he wanted me to feel low about myself, like, so that I stick around him, because like no one would I don't know, I just feel like he'd try to I was naive and young when I met him, so I feel like he tried to take advantage of that and manipulate me.
Terminated baby one because you loved him. How long after you guys started dating is when did the physical abuse start?
The first time it ever happened, which was not even like that long into the relationship, because I met him in February, and then it was probably like the beginning of May, because we were at Meek's Mill's birthday.
Okay.
He had like a mansion party, and we went, but while we were there, I was sitting here, and then Puff, and then Meek, but I was like covered with like a stand or something, like probably says like happy birthday Meek or something like that, but it's like a little stand that like was covering me, because there was like a lot of cameras and stuff there. So it was like me, Puff, and Meek. Puff had like leaned forward to like talk to somebody, say hi or whatever, and so I turned over to Meek and I said happy birthday. He put his hand out and he was like thank you, so I reached his hand and shook it, and as I shook Meek's hand, he turned around and saw it, and he got so mad.
Wow.
And then we probably like stayed like 20 minutes after that happened, and then when we got in the car, he like grabbed my hair. We were in the one of those Escalade trucks. Okay. So I was sitting on this side, he was on the other side, and he like grabbed my hair and like cussed me out for doing that. He was like, "Why the fuck can I cuss?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Why the fuck you shaking his hand for?" Like just saying stuff like that. I was like
a jealous rage.
Yeah, I was like, I was just saying happy birthday, nothing else. I think he thought I was trying to be sneaky behind his back, because I like reached over when he like leaned forward to talk to somebody else. So he thought I was trying to be sneaky.
And you were how old at this time?
I was 22 probably. In the end, it's not too far-fetched to assume that Diddy committed all the crimes he's been accused of, because even prior to Cassie Ventura and Arlo Rod Jones suing Diddy, one of his ex-girlfriends, Gina Hun, disclosed the abuse she had suffered at the hands of the Rat Mo.